Good morning and welcome to Love It, a podcast about loving stuff. My name is Daniel Thrawn. You may recognize my voice from Martini Giant, a podcast about movies, which you can check out at www.martinigiant.com. This podcast isn't necessarily about movies, but people come here to talk about things they love. Ideas, concepts, lines from books, moments in time, people, history, anything. If you're interested in being on Love It, I'd love to have you. And you can reach me at dthrawn on Twitter, or you can check out my YouTube page at dthrawn as well. So let's see. Today, what do I love? I love pickles. I will eat any kind of pickle you got. I also recently realized that I also loved pickled eggs, which I thought would be disgusting, but my youngest son made some, and they were great. My favorite pickle is Bubby's, which you can get at least here in California. I don't know where else. It's a really punchy pickle, a lot of flavor, really sharp, and I believe they're gluten-free. They don't pay us to advertise that. I just eat them all the time. I also love collecting role-playing games. I've been a gamer since I was probably around 10 when I played Star Frontiers with my parents. But I'm also always on the lookout for weird little indie games or pamphlet games. So please feel free to ping me on my Twitter with any suggestions. I also love talking with Erick Schiele. I have the pleasure of talking to Erick a lot because he's one of the co-hosts of Martini Giant. But today I get to talk to him about something other than movies, and something that's very important to the both of us. This is my conversation with Erick Schiele, and I hope you love it. So the reason why I love your walk-in, out of all walk-ins I've ever heard, is that everyone can do the high stuff, like the high-end part. You grab that little gravelly thing that he does.
Come on, Nikki, just give him your boots. Come on, Nikki.
Wow, that may be the best you've ever done right there.
I think it is. I had just a coffee, no cream, and it's just kind of stuck in my throat. But I'm telling you now, it's in me, and it's not going away. And I want you to know that, Dan.
There we go. Welcome to Love It. This is a show where people talk about something that they love. And today we're here with Erick Schiele, a man I've known for many years, I've worked with for many years, both in visual effects and on short films. He is a director. He is a brilliant artist, and we co-host a podcast together called Martini Giant, which you can see at or go to martinigiant.com and check out our very lengthy movie opinions there. We spend every week we spend hours talking about a couple of movies and go on and on at length. But today doesn't have to be about movies. Today can be about literally anything. So
I didn't know what it was about until you said it, because I thought you were like, oh, we're going to talk about how you save your receipts for the tax season. I was like, okay. So I did all this prepping.
We could still do that if you love that. That's a perfectly acceptable way to go. I have no problems with that whatsoever.
I just use a paper clip, and it's great.
Now that's the end of the show. There we go.
Thank you. What a great show.
Our sponsor, Staples. Fantastic. But what is it that you love? What is the thing that you love?
The thing that I love images. I love images, like the way an image can speak to me, reach out to me, invoke something. And images are so easy for me to make and understand from other artists, and I can be very snobby about it. Like, no, there's no intention there. It's not real, and other times it's just beautiful. I think it goes back to, well, I started off as a painter in New York, outside New York. Then I went to undergrad for that, and then I went to graduate for set design. But in New York, I worked at art galleries before I worked for directors. And I would see a lot of people come in bringing their slides. I worked at right on Prince and Broadway at one gallery. And everybody brought slides in every day, slides. And I always goes through, and I could, just can tell there's an intention, like there was something sincere about it, or and it sounds really strange, but I'd be like, no, it's not. And I knew then, I was like, God, I seem to have, because then the gallery owner would be like, no, I don't like this, but that seems cool. And he was the gallery owner. He had a good eye. So I was like, I got that because everything that I picked, he picked too. And I was like, you know what? There was a little confidence there. Like, it sounds strange, but I knew that my strength was the image. But
something just speaks to you. Something you look at it and something is connecting from the other person.
Connect. And I can also be like, it's not real and they might have potential, or they're just fake. Whoever made this is not good. And there's a little bit of magic you can sense. But yes, I'm good at the images. It would have been great if I was good at, like, you know, running a Hollywood studio or CEO, you know.
Right.
Or,
Yeah,
you know, but no.
Selling Bitcoin,
but
something like that.
I use that talent, but images, and you just asked me earlier, like, oh, you're just going to talk about one subject. I thought we were going to talk about AI, but then at the same time, I was like, well, it's all encapsulated in what I love. But as you can see behind me, well, you can't really, but I just have tons of art books. And I love going through the books, the good ones, and just, because an image can say so much. Old photograph.
Well, when you hold like one of those Taschen books, like it's so inspiring to just leaf through these things and see all these like incredible works. Like a Taschen book too, just of itself to me is even a different artistic experience, like as an object, right? Because it frames all this stuff together and it gives me an even a separate kind of artistic experience than any individual piece within book.
That's right. And more than the internet, I think the internet is so like shrapnel flying through the sky, and it's cool because there's a big bang and you got a duck, but it's still shrapnel, and there is no beautiful bomb unexploded that you're staring at. I know you just saw Oppenheimer, but it's like
it connects with it. Yes.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's curated too, and I actually feel like, because the photograph is so easy to take, and it's become this, not because of its ease of use, but there are so many images that just have no meaning because there's not a lot of stories in them, even though there's a ton of them. And I don't know if that's just because there's too many of them, all these selfies and everything. I just feel like there's so much imagery that we're losing artistry in a sense, or a certain perspective of things, because there's such a flood of it. And I feel like the books, I feel like painters and artists are going to come back because they're going to make their money selling their little books and their cool perceptions of the world and images, and then sponsors will pay for those because everything else is so cheap and easy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Because I think that there's, let me see if I can phrase this correctly. Like, with Midjourney, a lot of people would accuse Midjourney of being part of that problem because it generates so much stuff so fast. You know, like there's just hills and hills and hills of stuff. But I look at your material from Midjourney and like it really stands out. Like it really like leaps out. It doesn't feel like some randomly produced nonsense, or like, you know, like there's, when you talk about intentionality, like it really grabs something, those pieces.
Well, I appreciate that. I approach it, my process is that I love it because I know so much about it, but I know nothing. You know, I look at like myself as Robert Rauschenberg, who I loved. He would like go downtown and amass all this fine stuff, materials. I remember in New York, I just felt like I had heard his first time he was exposed was in Life magazine with General George Patton on the cover. I have it here. So I went to Rockefeller Center, and there was a guy out in the street, and he'd say, I have access to all the Life magazines. I said, I need the one with Patton on the cover. And he called me like a week and a half later. I went back to Rock Center, and he had it, and I bought it for $30. And in it, it shows Rauschenberg in his apartment with just photos and magazine articles, all this shit he's just grabbed, and he just pastes it together, and he does these photo things in the bathroom where it turns blue. And it was just like, he's just assembling. Yeah. So AI is assembling. And so I really try to, with my stuff, I know the process of it. I'm an artist. I know a lot technically, but I'm not like our partner Chris is really smart and understands coding and all that mathematics and numbers. I'm not great with numbers. But the thing is, I try to evoke a feeling. And so what I'll do is I grab photos that I know should be part of something that will evoke a feeling, and then I put it in this thing on Hugging Face, and it reads it as a prompt. It reads it as an image, and it says, I think the prompts will be this. Then I copy that, put it into Notion, and then I mix and match the prompts, and then I put on the tail end the stuff I want for the photos, like a Kodachrome, blah, 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 and then the different characters. Then I put it into Midjourney. And then you'll see those little things that I wanted, like the Georgian house, like the trees or the woods like this, and, an Italian villa, or these people in this type of clothing, early 70s. And it just comes because I'm interpreting these photos and then I'm remixing it and putting it out. I'm not saying, give me this. And then waiting for the machine to dictate it more or less, I guess. And then you kind of run it through revolutions. And if it takes a lot of time to get like that, but I find that and going through those photos, the old photos, I go also through a lot of old plays. I go to like old theater programs from about 1901 through 1915. And they're really beautiful programs. You find them on the National Archives, and it's all free. So I go into like these National Archives in Washington, digital collections, and I can get these old programs, great graphics, and then I scan those and put those in. I get prompts for those. And it's great. You mix it up and you come out with cool stuff, and you grab that and you mix it with the other things. And so you're intentionally pointing in a direction or mood you want. And it's a great feeling. But I'll be honest with you, as an image, I love it, but I show it on my website, but I would never say it's mine. A lot of the great ones I want to eventually just turn into paintings or use them for my graphic novel I'm making, but I have trouble just saying, oh, that's my image, because it's not. It's just
why is that? That's an interesting distinction. Because I think that actually lands, what you're saying there sort of lands, if you take like people who are hypercritical of AI, right? Like they say, oh, that's not art. Like it's just the machine's doing all the work for you. Like they're very passionate about their argument. But yet when I look at your stuff, I'm just like, that to me says Erick Schiele. Like I would know an Erick Schiele, I feel. Like by looking at your stuff. But you say that you don't feel comfortable saying that is yours.
Maybe that's just me as an artist. I just feel like, because the process is so new for everybody, right? I've only been doing it 8 months. The process is new, so the confidence level on it is not a confidence as an artist. It's just that it's such a new form. It's like, really? I can call that my own? I just gave it my intentions. But I think if you knew the kind of feeling you wanted from an image, and you knew a way to get it or had your own way of doing it. The one thing I'm very proud of is that, I guess because I'm old and 1 foot in the grave, but I've been doing my own thing in artistry since I was inspired as a 6-year-old from my neighbor. I just was like, I am very particular and I know what I want. And I do it for that feeling or that what it evokes, that image. So it's you can't twist my arm. You don't want it? Like, fuck off. Then I'm not doing it. Or it's just, that's the way. And it sounds horrible. It sounds like Francis Bacon in an interview in 1985. I saw an interview with him and I was like, God, this guy is dead on. He just read from a piece of paper. This is what I do. You don't like it? Fuck off. And he did that once. Some guy didn't like his painting, made fun of him at one point. And he was at a gallery show, and this guy had a gallery, and somebody sold him one of his works. So he went in, he bought it, and then he walked right outside the gallery in London, and he smashed it up and burned it in a trash bin in front of the gallery. His own work.
Wow.
Images. That's what I like. And it sounds so easy, and everyone does images now, but still, I feel that the meaning is gone. But I think we will get to that time where somebody will pay an artist just to create worlds for them on their own terms, and they'll own the art, like a Medici paying an artist.
It rings a bell for me when you say this, because everything is just instantly changeable by everybody all the time, and images are so easy to generate that you want to believe in the art, I guess, is how I feel about it. Like when you look at a piece of art, when I look at a piece of art, like I want the connection that you're describing, right? And the more that images are devalued or just produced en masse, it gets harder to immediately connect with something. Like just because it's like it numbs you out a little bit to the sensibility, the antenna that you have up that you're describing, where you just instantly know when it connects and you're really having a communication with the artist. I feel that nerve can get a little numb from hyper exposure, right?
That's right.
And so when you do connect with something that's physical, it makes it easier for that nerve to wake up, right? And so I appreciate when that happens for people, but I'm not sure, and this is my question, is like, if it's physical, is the connection actually stronger, or is that just giving a context for it to be stronger?
It's a context to be stronger. It could be digital work. I think what you hit on earlier, I feel like I just thought of it. It's like, I think one of the big problems with the image today, or people doing it, is not that all the people are doing it, is they hit the filter. And that filter evokes an immediate mood or style, and it's just oversaturated, and it loses, everything just becomes common.
Well, you said it. You said that, like, the machine is deciding it for you. Like it's the machine is saying this is what you want.
Yeah.
And commanding it.
No one's saying, fuck you, man. This is my problem. This is what I want. There are a lot of artists like that. Even digital artists, I think, are great. But there's a lot of machine cookie cutter. And I don't know where that comes from. That's a broader thing and way above what I would understand. But I do feel like we're over-imaging ourselves to the point where it loses its meaning. And then I don't know, in terms of the visual arts, what's after that. But I think it could be that people just make these small little worlds and books and even films, and it's theirs. And then the wealthy patrons will pay for that, and that's
right.
The new form.
Right.
I think it's great. Some of the new the tools that I use, I think are great because I've been so frustrated just trying to get my stuff out. I just still make my stuff, and I just do it myself, and that's it. That's all you can hope for. You just got to keep making.
Have things changed for you in terms of your art in that you moved from LA to Florida?
Yeah, it has. I think. I miss LA every day. I had a beautiful home, but during COVID, I sold it. My daughter's here for school, and it's great. She's in high school, and my wife and I came with our daughter. And, we have family around here, so it's fine. And, at the end of high school, who knows, probably go back. I'd like to, but we'll see. But
have you been more or less productive?
I've been more productive because I don't go outside. I live in Orlando or Winter Park, but I call it Moisture City, USA. And I have a big studio down here, and I work 10, 11 hours for clients. Like this morning I had client meetings, and then I work on my own stuff, writing my graphic novel and doing art. And I've read more since the pandemic. I've grown more as an artist since the pandemic. It's strange. And you learn, because you're not in Hollywood, I was there 26 years. You're not trying to make something to move you up the ladder there. You're making something that just you want to make. And it reminds you of that.
That's interesting. That's interesting because, I feel like, just from an external point of view, I feel, knowing you in both places, I know that you miss LA and LA misses you, but it's it seems like the amount of just raw inspiration that you've grappled onto is greater in your new situation.
I think also because I did everything for my family, for the better of my family, and I didn't make it about me. And that opened up another door with my work, because it's it's not all about my work, as long as I can keep drawing and writing and doing my thing. But I do feel like there was frustrating things with the business that I wish was different, but it's not. And so that's fine. But I do love the way the digital tools are, because it's all right, I'll just do it myself. Doesn't mean it's going to be Oppenheimer, but it's I'll just make it the way I see it and move to the next thing. Do you feel your art since, what's it called again? Since COVID? Did you experience COVID, or is it just me?
I never got COVID. I don't know why. My whole family got it at one point or another. A couple of people twice. I've been tested a million times, never gotten it.
Wow.
But yeah, for in terms of the COVID experience, 1,000 times more productive, and I've got a lot more stuff that I've done that I like a lot more. And I think that was something you said that just being in LA, I love LA, I love it. But just being in the mix of the business all the time puts people, myself anyway, in kind of the wrong mindset about your art.
Mm-hmm.
Having some time, having the ability to be a little more isolated and be more in touch with things that are really important to me, has ended up with greater level of production for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like, and then we're talking about the image. What we're really talking about, I feel, is communication, both with other people through art and with ourselves. It's like creating a channel for yourself so you can express this stuff that's happening for you,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But like seeing your stuff in particular, I connect with the flavors that it's offering, right? And what you have been expressing for the past, half hour is like, regardless of the technology you're using, there is an intangible element that we're trying to get to, and you have to have control to try to get at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may be sort of like, Midjourney is random to an extent, but it's the fact that it's like those are the waves, and you learn how to surf on those waves, and you understand the flow to get to the place that you want to go to, and it's that place that's important, right? As opposed to any particular result. It's getting to this note that rings a bell for you, and then in turn rings a bell for me.
Yeah, and you brought back, I was going to mention earlier, but there's a photographer that I always loved, and his name's Ouija, mm-hmm. and he was in the 30s, and he used to just go around New York and just stand in corners and wait.
Just hang out.
And hang out, and then get a great photo. And It was just, it was almost like Keith Richards. He waited for it to come to him. Yep. And he's hunting it out somewhere instead of just snap, 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 snap. It's just like, right. Like the directors of the 70s, like John Huston too, mm-hmm. like Man Who Would Be King. I think he was just like, we got it, one take.
Yeah, if you got it, you got it. You know it when you see it. That's like you, because you felt it, right?
They're like, do you want safety? No, it's okay.
Safety for what? We got the thing.
Right? It's amazing. But that's a confidence that he knows he has it. Right. Which, maybe there's no confidence among other certain types of artists today. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we all go through insecurities, but maybe that's it. I don't know.
That's an interesting way to put it. Sure, yeah. I don't know if this is a clear way to describe it. But like when I talk to people who are against AI and AI imagery, like they're just like, oh, the machine's just doing everything for you, and like I think what they don't understand is what they're expressing is this philosophy that the machine has some kind of say, and it doesn't. Like you have the say, right? Like you're the one who says, and if you give the machine the say, it's going to be lesser, like, because the machine has nothing to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Some of the stuff on my website, not promoting my website, but some of the stuff I'll do a whole series and go down a rabbit hole with, I say, Midjourney, and then I'll give a history to each photo as though I was there and I took the photo. And it's weird. I go back to it and it has way more meaning too, even though it's like, wait a minute, I did the whole thing of Japanese men in their cars.
With the cars, yeah, I love that series.
And it was just like, I totally made up all the names and the histories of each one.
It's brilliant.
And yet it's kind of like, it gives it once you describe it and give it something, it's not trying to trick them. It's just, I just made a history up. I just made this world up and this thing, and I'm not trying to trick you or be a wise ass. I just was like, that's so-and-so in a Candyman, 1978 Candyman 4-door. And it's like, what? Yeah. And it's like, wasn't that a car? Like,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
it gives
So-
it some weird frame to it that gives you a context.
It gives it a
for the
frame
experience.
that if you
Yeah.
just showed the picture, like, I don't know what I'm looking at. What am I looking at? Why is that man standing next to a weird car? Whose car is that? My brother used to have a car like that. No, here it is. Oh, huh. And then they're like, but the weird thing is if they're like, oh, it's made up, which I do say, they're just like, that's crap. Why would you make that up? But, you know.
Right. Well, it's like with Werner Herzog does this whole thing with like in a number of Herzog's documentaries, and he just tells this openly. He's like, there are things that are in his documentaries that are completely made up. You know, like he
I
just
love that.
and it's brilliant because like he'll just have an aspect like in I forgot what Cave of Forgotten Dreams. He talks about this, you know, these albino, like white alligators or something like this, whatever it is, and he like. And later on, he's like, "Oh no, that's totally a story," and it's because he has this whole idea of like there are facts and there is truth, right? And if you worry about whether the things that you put into your film are purely factual, then that's what he calls the accountant's truth. But if you put things in your film that are true, then they are always true. And that has to do with what it is saying and what the context is and what is within yourself. And it doesn't have to be like the alligator is a fiction, but that doesn't mean what it is saying in the context of the film isn't a powerful, true thing.
That's right. And I think that goes back to, in working on this graphic novel, and I talked to some guy about 2 years ago, and I was just given the background of it, and then I was like, yeah, they were there, you know, it's this childhood story and about neighbors, and they were there 4 years. He's like, well, I researched it. It was 3.5 years. And I was like, okay, I think you missed the whole fucking point.
You missed the whole fucking point.
I was
exactly.
off by 4.5 months. Sorry. It's so strange that people think that way. But then you're just, look, if it means something to you, you make it. And if you have your language is to make films or images, you use your language. And don't try to be anything else except what your language is and what you're good at and what you want to become better at in terms of language. That's the real stuff comes out of that. Like, no matter what you think about Francis Bacon, what I loved about him, and there's so many other artists like that, is that he has such a rough life. His family kicked him out when he was 15, but every day was something that he felt he had to get out. And I knew this painter in Italy when I was an art student, and I would see him. He and I would always joke. He's like, "Fun's over, Jerry," you know, from the King of Comedy.
Yeah,
but he would always say, "Just got to clean the pipes."
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny. But as I get older, I was like, yeah, you just got to clean the pipes. You just have to go every day and type for 5 hours or this or that. That's where the good stuff comes. And I think when you do a quick picture and put a filter on it and put it out, that's not the habitual waking up and expressing yourself every day. It's interesting, the thing that I've been working on for 4.5 years now plus, it's broken down more doors than I've written 11 feature scripts and nothing. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm done. I'll just write this because it's the most meaningful thing to me. And I wrote, and everyone's like, I love it. I was like, how is that possible? How is that possible? Because you just get rid of the market and you just say, I want to just I have to tell this. It comes out of me and it does it.
It's out there and it's beautiful, man. Erick Schiele, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I think it's great.
And people can see your stuff at erickschiele.com. Is that true?
erickschiele.com.
I highly recommend anybody who hears this to go there because some of this stuff that Erick has created, it will like the moment you see it, you'll be like in a haunted, strange, and beautiful state of mind.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. This has been Love It. We'll see you guys next week, and please check out Erick's art. It's amazing.